Not that I know of.
It's his birthday.
Oh, it
Jim?
is?
Joe.
Oh, awesome. Oh,
I just assumed we were skipping because it was his birthday.
that would
You
be
don't want to be
that
embarrassed.
would be the smart thing to do,
Yeah.
to just take the day off.
I know, I plan to skip it. It's my birthday.
Okay. Good evening. I'll call to order this meeting Monday, April 25th, 2022 at 6:01 p.m. Our invocation tonight will be given by Pastor Rick Klug of Calvary Baptist Church. Welcome, Rick. Okay, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
They cannot, nobody can hear this mic on the Zoom.
Okay. This is on. Test, test. Does he have, can he hear me now?
It's just this.
Dean?
Yeah, it was just the podium mic that was not able to be heard.
Oh, sorry. That was my bad. Now it's on. I forgot. Yeah, that's when.
Test.
Used to that. All right.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Kong,
Here.
Councilmember Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Mohovi.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis is absent right now,
I'll be here in a few minutes.
and Mayor Schwartz.
Here.
Thank you.
Public comment. Notice to the public. This time is set aside to receive public comment on matters not calendared on the agenda. When recognized by the mayor, please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments. Is prohibited from generally discussing or taking action on items not included in the agenda. However, the city council may briefly respond to comments or questions from members of the public. Therefore, the city council will listen to all public comment, but will generally not discuss the matter or take action on it. Is there any public comment?
And I do not see any raised hands.
Okay. So we are going to switch the presentations around a bit, and we're going to start with presentation C, State of Broadband in Bishop, presented by Inyo County Office of Education Chief Technology Officer, Justin Norcross.
Thank you. Good afternoon or evening. We're on that cusp. My name is Justin Norcross, and I was invited by Councilmember Garcia and some conversations with Councilmember Kong about internet broadband, and had some prompting and inspiration So thought I'd give some thoughts on broadband. Happen to know a thing or two about it. My team oversees the broadband, internet, and technology for most of the schools in Inyo County. And so we provide internet connectivity in the schools and classrooms for about 2,500 plus students throughout Inyo County. First off, I want to recognize Robin and her part in running a hybrid Zoom meeting, council meeting, Granicus, you name it. We've been doing that and helping the schools with that for some time. And so I just want to appreciate, what's happening behind the scenes. Take that moment. Thank you, Robin. And I'm a resident of Inyo County, happens to be outside of the city limits, but a frequenter of this city of Bishop here, and have been here for a number of decades now. I think that's the first time I've said that publicly. So puts me here for a while. And as family man, have 3 kids, one in elementary, one in middle, and one in high school. So things are really fun these days, lots of activities and whatnot. And that includes our own kids learning about being online and communicating and the pervasiveness of connectivity. So recently, and this is a shameless plug, the Boy Scouts local troop 395 now has restarted recently. And that is, thank you for bumping me up a little bit. I've got to get back to the troop meeting that's over at the fairgrounds. They are being, there is other adults there, they're being supervised, so. And I would say from dabbling with technology for the last 20 years or so, there's some observations that I'll make this evening. They are my view, my opinion. Some of it comes through my work with the Inyo County Office of Education. We've had a long run of technology experience there. A lot of it, I'll say, from my view. Next slide. Yeah. So you'll notice right away in presentations, I don't do a lot of bullet points. So I hope to share with you verbally a little bit about what I have in mind. The question of what is broadband? Broadband is a technical term that's come out of decades of technical marvel and creativity and design and ingenuity of humanity. For most of us, though, including myself, it essentially means internet access. Now, in some ways, that's high-speed internet access. I like to relate high speed to your experience. So how you experience the internet, are you watching movies? Are you able to watch that Netflix series you wanted to watch? And is it streaming? That's an experience through high-speed internet or broadband. In times past, we would say that broadband or high-speed internet is faster than dial-up. And yes, I remember the days of dial-up. Those were my early days in technology and listening to the modem connect, and we could really, chat with text, before cell phones. And we might be able to download a picture and see a picture of space. And now we think of broadband in other terms. I want to make mention that there are different definitions of broadband or high-speed internet access and the speeds. None of them are right or wrong. They just how they're defined. The federal government has a definition. The FCC has a definition for broadband speed. The state has a definition. Different agencies have a definition. And I'll say individuals have a definition of what broadband speed really means to them. So that's a little bit about what broadband is. I'm going to turn this next one to the council very briefly. Why does broadband matter?
for multiple reasons. It allows you, well, I mean, it gives you connectivity to the internet, it connects you to the rest of the world. And so you can expand your opportunities, your learning opportunities, your employment opportunities. And of course, since the internet basically started for entertainment, your entertainment opportunities as well.
Absolutely. Any other input on why broadband matters?
Well, it's how we exchange information these days.
And that's a fair lead in too. Yes, broadband is all of those things. And it is becoming much more about our economic capabilities to a local region. It's about our entertainment. It's about communicating with one another, seeing what's happening on the other side of the world in real time. Consumption, though, has been at the heart of broadband or high-speed internet. And so I would offer another perspective, an additional perspective on why broadband matters, is because we have a generation of creators coming up. Our youngsters are creating content faster than we can even keep up with what they're creating. They're collaborating, and pick your favorite video platform. They are collaborating with one another, whether we agree with how or when or what the topic is, they're engaging with one another. That's the new, you might say, makeup of our society. And so having broadband to be able to push that video, push that content, is why broadband matters. How is broadband delivered? In the old days, we had a modem. A couple things up there on the pictures there give some examples. The top right, many would be familiar with a modem they might have in their home from a local cable company. You might see mobile hotspots in the top left. Just for context, Inyo County Office of Education supported all the schools in Inyo County with several hundred hotspots during the last 2 years to help provide for connectivity within their learning, distance learning. So looking at satellite in the bottom right, you'll see an example of what is a Starlink satellite. And then fiber optic transport, fiber optic cable, the glass, strings of glass, hundreds and hundreds of miles of strings of glass. Next slide, please. And so one of the questions often that I sort of understand when there's dialogue about when internet works, when it doesn't work, is, well, how is it all working? And think of it as a series of connections. One device or one house or one neighborhood or one regional area or one state or one nation or the globe is connected to another. Now, we're not necessarily connected across space yet with that, but between our houses, between our businesses, between our schools, we have these connectivity. And it takes it from the individual device, like our council members have in their hands on the desk, on the dais, that there is a device that is connected to almost an infinite number of devices, at least what we can fathom. And so it is a series of connections that takes us from what is important to us in our home, place of business, our school, and then that takes it through various handoffs, whether it's a fiber optic cable, whether it's a regional network, such as the California Broadband Cooperative, otherwise known as the Digital 395 Project, and local providers as well to the greater area of California, where they make the connections to your favorite video streaming provider or other news content, and you name it. I think one of the things to address in the success of connectivity is what impacts your experience? What impacts that high-speed internet? And the one thing that many can control is the device or the wireless router that's in their home or their business. It's that local piece of equipment that is owned by the individual entity, the resident, the business owner. But from there, everything else is abstracted from the individual. And it's that connectivity from that provider all the way out through the globe that's almost uncontrollable. You can't control the experience. And so I'm speaking a little bit about that to address the concern of the experience that many have, including myself, when the internet doesn't work, to know that sometimes it's out of my control in the moment. Now, I've discovered, even as a tech person, that my equipment at home was faulty. And so even I have those challenges. And so one of the things that we look at is the standard or the age of the technology that's in the home. And so that's what folks can look at is how old is that Wi-Fi router? Is it 2 years old, 5, 10 years old? And so we could look at, next slide, please. We can look at certain standards, and I'm using this to demonstrate that the industry has come up with a Wi-Fi 6. And what is Wi-Fi? It's a marketing name. It doesn't stand for anything else. But what it does is it helps all of us understand if we need decent Wi-Fi, today we want to have Wi-Fi 6 equipment. We want to have Wi-Fi 6 capable cell phone, a laptop, a streaming device. We want to have a Wi-Fi 6 capable router in our home, in our business, and that's going to support the connectivity. That might support your smartphone, your streaming, or this ubiquitous thing called the Internet of Things, little temperature thermostats, sensors, security systems. There's many, many devices that are going into homes now. And if we look at the Wi-Fi 6 standard, which yes, there will be a 7 and 8 and so on, but today we want to see that we're at the Wi-Fi 6 standard. That encompasses a whole bunch of technical jargon and specs. So that's a helpful tip to look at that specific standard for what you can affect within your home or business. So we talk about what's in the home. Then we talk about the connectivity to the home or business. And that term is often referenced as the last mile. It's the connection that makes it to the building or the property or the business or the school. And that last mile is often a provider of service that you would be familiar with. So we have a few providers in the Bishop area that provide that to businesses and to homes. And to make that distinction from a concept of the middle mile, and some of these terms I know are familiar to many, but it really sets the stage to understand the series of connections, bringing it back to that concept, the series of connections from the home or business all the way to the resource on the internet. And so the middle mile project that many are familiar with would be the Digital 395 project. Next slide, please. And so this was borrowed from some folks, I believe our counterparts up in Mono County put this little brief map together that shows that ultimately what we have is the Digital 395 system provided connectivity to a bunch of the providers. Now I remember before Digital 395 and it was slow. So if we had fast now, it was slow then. But what we've come to expect today, well, we want it even faster. And so that's often what we hear, what we experience sometimes is we need it to be faster. We want to stream a really great movie in very high quality, but yet something's not working. But it's better than it used to be. and thanks to Digital 395. That's a middle mile project. Mention in particular that what that project did, the Digital 395 project, is it provided connectivity for government, education, schools, medical facilities, and I think most important for many small businesses and many residents, the service providers. Without that connectivity, there would not be the speeds that we have today within our communities in the Eastern Sierra. I'd like to highlight, next slide, please. Highlight another major internet project that in the last 2 decades that really benefited our area. And that was the Digital California Project. This is 20 years ago. These are in the early days of the state realizing that all schools needed equal access to the internet. And so that was put forward, that project. And as a result of that high-speed project, about 20 years ago, the students of Inyo County and Mono County and many county of the 58 counties in California benefited from high-speed internet access. When Digital 395 came along, it made the connection to the state network and thus to the world multiples of faster speed. And so we were able to take away this sort of awareness or need of internet in the schools for the most part. So I would say that our schools are very, very well connected today, in part thanks to the early days of that Digital California project and also of the Digital 395 network. Next slide, please. And so this map here is of the statewide education or the research and education network, which connects universities, colleges, community colleges, libraries, K-12 schools to the greater internet. And they're participating in what is a world-class, I don't believe there's anything like it, with the kind of connectivity that's organized through what is Scenic. It's the nonprofit under the state of California that works to manage all of that in the connectivity. Our students in Inyo County and Mono County are directly connected to probably the best connectivity anywhere in the world because of those efforts 20 years ago and in 2013 with Digital 395. Next slide, please. And so when we look at, where are we going next with connectivity in the state in particular? And these are things I'm aware of. I am not particularly well vested or have a greater understanding about where the state of California is going. There's many other folks that have, but this is to bring to attention that recently the state of California has put some resources on the table, meaning real dollars, money, under this concept of the Golden State Network. And to help with last mile projects, I believe there's grant opportunities, also middle mile projects. I believe there's one that's on the table that's going to connect through Death Valley, potentially. And as well as my understanding is local agency technical assistance. So I'm briefly mentioning a few of these things as I consulted with some other counterparts, particularly at Inyo County and Mono County, and a few others. I began to realize how many different pots of money are coming to bear around the broadband conversation. So what that means exactly for the city of Bishop, sorry, that's more research for somebody. But it's to say that I think the federal and the state, and particularly the local governments, have gotten really interested in the broadband conversation, and that there's resources that are coming to bear for that. What you might consider, however, as a public agency, are policies. Now, I'm not here to recommend, I'm not here to point out any particular policy or to highlight anything with any urgency. but there are some things that can be done to look at to help support the open access or the availability of or the competition of broadband. And I think that's a critical component, is the competition of broadband. Is that where we have competition, we might see better results. And you can define your results the way you need to, whether you're a resident, small business, government agency, you name it. And so some terms that have been thrown at me that I've kind of taken in and thought, yes, those are some things to consider. Dig once policies. If there's going to be a trench down the road or a conduit laid, well, how many other conduits could go in the ground? If we want to dig once and not have to dig the street up again and again. So when you're approached by a contractor, when you're approached by a communications company, you know, there's options or considerations to be made that if you hold the, you know, the conversation, you might be able to call for those things. That gets into, as I understand, Destin's area of expertise with dealing with public works projects and things like that. But it really highlights the need to understand what it is that you want to have happen in the end. And if by a policy, could you have it dig once? Are there municipal dollars that can be made available to perhaps help with some of those projects? And I think really what I've gotten a sense of is being a partner with providers, being a partner with other entities in the broadband conversation. And I want to emphasize that that's a very positive stance to take, is that where there is opportunity to build relationship, where there's an opportunity to build a connection with companies that can work with broadband, public or private, take those opportunities and see them as opportunities for a partnership. And so that can help leverage where folks can go with their connectivity. Next slide. So one highlight of a resource is, where do you get broadband? So several years ago, the Eastern Sierra Council of Governments had a broadband consortia. And I was asked to be one of 12 members. We had a number of folks on it to discuss access and adoption of broadband. And when we looked at that, there were a couple of efforts that was the focus of that. It was to build awareness, to tell our story, and to teach best practices in broadband. And so I would offer connectedeasternsierra.net is a resource that folks can find internet options, internet access options. And perhaps for the council to consider a conversation even back to the Council of Governments in terms of what a broadband conversation might look like for the region going forward. I know there is some interest from some of the other agencies in terms of conversations around access and adoption and broadband. So I think with that just is a little bit of my perspective on broadband, and really I hope that gives a little bit more insight. But if I could, I'll just entertain any questions. So thank you.
Borough.
Justin, I just have a quick question about the Connected Eastern Sierra
Yes.
website. So I brought it up. Where are these numbers coming from?
Oh, yes. So there are some stats on there I believe you're looking at.
Uh-huh. At the
And
end of 2019, the average internet speed per household in Inyo County will be 880 megabits per second. I don't think that's true.
no, not my getting it from the school, but
Right. I don't know. I'm just curious. Where did
and I think that highlights, that's a good observation. What that really highlights is that there could be a platform, connectedeasternsierra.net, for broadband information in the Eastern Sierra. And that to keep that fresh and relevant and to look at that could be a call to action for the agencies involved.
I mean, in principle, we have the backbone to support all of these speeds for all of the residents of Inyo County, and effectively the the challenge that we end up having is with regards to implementing it at the final mile here. I mean, you mentioned that the Office of Ed, you guys have gigabit per second internet. I don't think I can pretty much say the vast majority of residents in the city of Bishop do not. And that's just from that sort of an infrastructure standpoint. Do you have any sense of advances that have been made in technology so that, I mean, you mentioned fiber is a glass conduit, right? So does it pose issues to like lay it above ground, or does it always have to go underground?
Into definitely the area of the policy question and where there could be a preference. Perhaps the preferred way is below ground. That doesn't mean it can't go on utility poles. And fiber optic would be the probably the highest preferred physical line for a connection, even into a home. That's becoming the standard. Is a fiber optic cable to the premise or the business. I did skip over some future options, and I'll just very briefly mention a few things. Starlink is satellite internet, high-speed internet access, and my understanding is that if you were to put your address in Round Valley, Ravenna area, or Independence and South, that you could subscribe to that satellite internet access today. Whether that means that's the long-term viable option, the right option, I'm not here to advocate one way or another, but it is coming fast. And I would say Bishop and Big Pine, which are not yet available according to Starlink, are options that are coming. 5G, our Verizon Wireless, our AT&T, our T-Mobile, the capability of the technology, the tower infrastructure, for instance, like I believe it just went online behind the fairgrounds. It's on City of Bishop property, the new tree. That 5G technologies will become an option for at-home or small business, just like your dish satellite that you would put on the side of your house. You may have a 5G antenna fixed, installed on your house, providing you high-speed internet. Those are options that are coming in some very small, relatively few markets. That is available from some of those providers now. And then the news on Frontier recently was exciting to hear that there would be fiber optics. And my understanding as a Suddenlink customer, I received a note from Suddenlink that Optimum Fiber, one of their brands, or they're becoming Optimum Fiber. Whether that means in this market or not for high-speed internet from Suddenlink, that remains to be seen. And then there's municipal built networks. And, several years ago, the county had the conversation about the Obsidian project, where it's building an open access network maintained by perhaps a municipality, but then resold to private companies to provide access to a particular address. So I think there are on the horizon several new and exciting options, which creates a competitive market space, particularly in Bishop and in the greater Eastern Sierra region.
Getting DSL, and that was like a big, exciting step from dial-up. So I foresee some great changes here in our valley the next, hopefully 6 to 2 years.
Hopefully 6 months, yeah.
Yeah,
6 months, not
2
6
years.
weeks,
I didn't mean
right?
6 years. I meant 6 months to 2 years. Yeah,
Yes.
according to Frontier. Any other questions?
Not necessarily a question, but I'd like to thank Justin for giving us this presentation today. And if I may add, Justin and I worked for a number of years at Northern York Hospital. And I'd like to share just one of the stories. In about 2010, video communication was being became popular, but in very few devices and for very few customers. Video remote or telemedicine was available, but it wasn't like wireless. You needed to have a camera wired to a monitor, TV, and again, very few healthcare providers had access to telemedicine. For us here in Northern New Hospital, give it a remote location, we didn't have telemedicine back then. And then for providing language or communication access to individuals, video interpreting video remote interpreting began as an option to just the over the telephone interpreting. And the equipment that we were able to get donated in about 2010 was a huge monitor mounted, and it required a router and a few other devices to work. And Justin was instrumental in getting this equipment to work with our network at the hospital. At the time when I was joining meetings with these big hospitals such as UCLA, UC Davis, the ones that had this equipment back then, they were even questioning if we had the internet infrastructure at the hospital to be able to have these devices to work. And it was funny to hear, do you guys even have internet? They were asking me. Yeah, we do. And it was at the time when the new hospital was built, there is one of the biggest infrastructures in IT in the county is at the hospital. The server room is huge, and the hospital having 300 to 500 computers connected to the internet every single day, 24 hours a day, it requires a team of about 10 technicians at different levels to maintain it and keep it running 24/7. So that's the kind of level of infrastructure that we have, that we need. And Justin was one of those instrumental technicians to get that going back then. So I asked Justin to come and talk to us about his knowledge and experience on broadband, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
Now we will move on to our second presentation, Public Agency Retirement Services, PARS, Section 115, Trust Managing Unfunded Liability, presented by PARS Executive Vice President Mitch Barker. Thanks, Mitch. Thanks for coming to Bishop.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, staff. Sincerely appreciate it. Thanks for the invitation, Des and Jennifer. Glad to be here. This is one of my favorite areas, and unfortunately for 2 years, haven't been able to come back. We have a number of clients you'll see, and coming up here to visit, to hike, to fish is one of the best. So glad to be back. Robin's going to help me go through the presentation booklet. 2 goals tonight: educate. So it's an educational presentation. I'm going to keep it simple and hopefully keep it brief. It's valuable, and I want to make sure we do that. 2 pages. Yep. One more. Okay, I did want to share with you a little bit about PARS so you know who we are, and the fact that we're already managing 2 programs for the city. You have one that's for part-time, seasonal, and temporary employees called the Social Security Alternative. So we're the administrator of that program. And then you have a supplemental defined benefit plan from quite a number of years ago for a number of employees, and we manage that one as well. So we're trust administrators, which means we do record keeping, we do the accounting, we monitor money coming in, we process disbursements when it's time to take money out, and we monitor for plan compliance as it relates to the IRS, GASB, and state government code. So that's the role of PARS. 2 of our partners are US Bank, they're the trustee. So they hold the money in a trust. They provide fiduciary protection. As you may have known, they've tendered an offer for Union Bank. They did that back in the fall, and that will close sometime in the summer. So all the banks that are out there, to the extent that we know, will become U.S. Bank at some point in time. Our investment management partner is Highmark Capital. They've been managing our money for many, many years. Chris Suda does a great job, and we look forward to her continuing. Next page. So what we're going to talk about tonight specifically is a trust. It's called a 115 trust. It's a section of the Internal Revenue Code. And I think simple, I mean, that's just the way I look at things. Think of it as a savings account. It's putting money from your treasury or from your general fund over into this savings account. And there's some reasons why this makes good sense. You also know that there's two types of post-employment benefits. There's pension and there's OPEB. OPEB is an acronym that GASB came up with. Basically, it's retiree medical. And you've already pre-funded with our competitor, CalPERS, to the tune of about $3.5 million. So you've set aside quite a bit of money for that benefit. If you like the program I'm going to share with you tonight, you could potentially transfer your OPEB assets, meaning retiree medical, from CalPERS to PARS, but I'll let y'all decide that. So the idea specifically tonight that we're talking about and focusing on is pension pre-funding. Again, you've already done retiree medical. Let's talk about the pension side. It's called pre-funding. Pre-funding is sort of a technical word. Again, it simply means setting money aside in a reserve account, not within the general fund, but in a trust. And this Section 115 is a very, very well-known vehicle for doing that. We got IRS approval in 2006 for OPEB and then 2015 for pension, that the assets in that trust and any earnings on those assets would be tax exempt. That's very important. It had never been done before anywhere in the nation, and we were the first to get that. And our attorney firm said, go get this private letter ruling from the IRS. You're a tax exempt agency, but the money is not within your general fund. It's within this trust, which is outside, right? So we wanted to make sure that the earnings off the trust are tax exempt, and they are, which is a positive. So the idea is to set this money aside in this pension account within the trust and stabilize the process, because pension costs are going up. So how do we grab a hold of this thing and prepare for the future? Once the money's in the trust, by the way, it's an irrevocable trust. Those were scary words back in the day. That simply means that the money in the trust can only be used for pension related expenses. That's real important. Your OPEB money in the CalPERS trust can only be used for OPEB expenses. So that way it's protected and you know it's going to be used for the purpose it was intended to use. Now, when it's time to take the money out, as you see underneath that cylinder, there's two ways to use it. You can reimburse the city for pension related expenses, or let's say you've accumulated quite a bit. You want, you know what, we're ready to write an extra check to CalPERS. You can do that. But while it's in that trust, it's earning hopefully a greater rate of return than leaving in the general fund. That's one of the benefits. Bottom right's real important. No setup cost, no minimums. So we want to make this as user-friendly as possible. Most agencies have gotten through COVID pretty well financially, but many are adopting today and said, we don't have extra money. Can we still do this? The answer is yes, you can. You adopt it when you want, and you put money aside when you find the money. So, and the money can be either one-time money. For instance, San Benito County sold a landfill that generated $3 million. That was their initial seed money that they put into the trust. Or with our help, we can establish a funding policy over time, which is a good way to go. And I've got some samples in here. Next page. One thing I've learned from small towns, and I'm from Texas originally, it's not easy to get started. They want to know who you are, where you're from, and who else you're working with. And it's important for you to know that we're working with pretty much all the other public agencies in the Bishop area: ESTA, Community Service District, Great Basin Unified, the county court. In fact, we love coming here because we can see all 8 clients literally in a day and a half. So it's about as efficient as it gets, including 3 in this same building. Inyo County, Mono County, and town of Mammoth Lakes. So they're already enjoying the same 115 trust in either for OPEB or for pension. So in essence, you're sort of the last agency to address the pension side of the equation. Next. All right, so let's talk about pension rate stabilization. Why is it important to look at this? Well, GASB changed the rules in 2015. Pension liabilities were buried in the footnotes. Nobody was looking at it. They changed the rule with GASB 68. Now it became a line item on the balance sheet. Now it's a big deal. So what did CalPERS do that also makes this a big deal? As you may know, they just lowered the discount rate from 7 to 6.8. Discount rate is sort of a technical actuarial term. I like to look at the layman's version of that is, what's the expected rate of return looking forward? So it used to be 7.5, then they lowered it to 7 5 years ago, and now they're lowering it again. If you're like me with kids and grandkids, I call it the teeter-totter effect. So when you lower something, something pops up. And the two things that pop up are unfunded liabilities go up and annual costs go up. So we want to give you something to deal with it. Are they done at 6.8? Heck no. In the fall, when they did their 2-month study, the leading actuary, John Bartel, said 6.2 eventually. So we think the next step eventually would go from 6.8 to 6.5 and then eventually 6.2. Why do they want to lower the discount rate? Well, the capital markets have said, you're not earning 7. You've got to get more realistic and get down to a level that's roughly where markets were. 3 years ago, they earned 6.7, under 7. 2 years ago, they earned 4.7, under 7. Last year, great year, 21.3%. So all that's going to get melded into new actuarial updates coming next August. And then they lowered the discount rate. What else did they do? They changed the amortization period from 30 to 20 years. It's kind of like your mortgage company sending you a letter saying, thank you for paying your mortgage on time, and we're going to shorten your loan period from 30 to 20 years, which is going to increase your monthly payment. You go, wait a minute, I didn't ask for that. Well, it's a way of paying down liabilities faster. So they decided it was best for public agencies, and they did it. All right, next page, Robin. So let's look at your particular CalPERS numbers. So if you looked on the CalPERS website, they're up there. They come out every August and they run 1 year behind because they've got 4,000 agencies and it just takes a long time to value. So you see 2019s and you see 2020s next to that. Let's focus on a few of the numbers. Unfunded liability line. It went from 2.2 million 2 years ago to 11.2 million this year. That's a 10% increase. Your cost, your annual contribution amount went from 1.2 million to 1.3. That's an 8% increase in 1 year. What will it increase over time as forecasted by CalPERS? 30% increase to 1.7. Now that's before we even know what this lowering of the discount rate is going to do. So all those things still have to be factored in over time. The bottom line is costs are going up. So why do we think pre-funding pension makes good sense? Local control over the assets. Because what's your option? Your option is to send additional money to CalPERS. I'll say it's a good one. I just don't think it's the best one. Because if you send extra money to CalPERS and you have an emergency or a bad budget year and you would like access to those funds, you can't get it back. In our trust, you can. Okay? And we'll talk more about that. So local control over the assets. You decide when you put the money in and you decide when you take the money out and you decide what's the investment risk level. And we've got 5 levels. Pension rate stabilization. That's a feature, but we wound up calling the program that. Why? Well, CalPERS, 4.7, 6.7, 21.3. Who knows what this year is going to be? It's not looking good, as we know. Your treasury or your general fund, what's it earning? Probably under 0.5. So if that's the case, you've got one volatile in the pension and the general fund's not earning much. We want to be in the middle somewhere trying to fill the gap. Rainy day fund, as mentioned, if you have a tough budget year or there's an emergency. I moved to Amador County last year on August 15th, evacuated on August 18th due to the Caldor fire. I learned about emergencies. Fortunately for us, unfortunately for folks in the Tahoe area, the wind blew the other direction and the fires went that direction. But emergencies happened, assets were needed, funds were needed. So the money is there for rainy day purposes. What's the one restriction? You may remember. The money in the pension account can only be used for pension-related expenses. That's key. And diversification. We operate under a different state investment code than your general fund. Your general fund is basically a checking account. It's got to be there to pay bills. Therefore, it's very restricted and cannot invest in anything risky. We operate under a different government code that says we may diversify the investments in a prudent manner. So what's prudent for one agency may not be prudent for another. And that's why you have the ability and staff to determine what's the risk tolerance level. And here's the key. If you send additional money to CalPERS, you've kind of put all your eggs in one basket. By putting money in our trust, you're spreading the risk. Next. As mentioned, sample funding policies. Again, we will help you develop a funding policy over time. Here's 8 or 9 of them right here. I'm going to just go over number 1 for the sake of time. This agency said, whatever the year-end surplus is, if there is any, we're going to take 50% of that and pre-fund the trust. Well, that's a pretty large number. And I would argue a lower amount probably may be more appropriate. But there's no pressure on that one, because if there's no surplus, there's no funding. But hopefully there is surplus, and you choose a percentage that would fit for the city and the council. So we have lots of funding policies. We have staff reports behind all of those, and we'll work with staff at the right time to help develop yours. Next page. Simple investment approach. Well, nothing simple about trying to manage money in this market, but simple from the standpoint that you're a small agency with limited staff and you need resources, and we're going to provide that. So the first phase is input. What's the target rate of return? What's your risk tolerance appetite? And most importantly, probably, when do you think you might need the money? Most agencies today, because of the unknown with CalPERS and where they're going, are targeting 3 to 5 years. Because we looked at what your costs are going up to 30% in 5 years. And they're thinking, aha, if my budget hasn't grown that fast, I may need to tap the money in the trust to fulfill the gap. So timing use of funds will be critical. In the middle section there, we have 5 risk tolerance portfolios, from the most conservative to the one at the top, capital appreciation. In my humble opinion, one of those will fulfill the needs of the city. And then here's probably the most important part, a dedicated portfolio manager. Pre-COVID, we come up here every year, including stop at the city, and we do a client review on site. We've gotten to know staff, and we think that's important. Chris takes on the fiduciary responsibility of managing your money. It's personal for her. And again, she drafts an investment policy. So it's specific. What's my game plan on how do I achieve your target rate of return, including a section that says no risky investments. Can't do it. Annual on-site reviews, hopefully again in June, like previous years. And this is key, cell phone access. When March 2020 happened, she got a lot of phone calls. Oh my God, the market went down 30% in 1 year. What do we do? Do we buy, do we sell, or do we stand pat? And fortunately, she walked most people off the ledge, and it was stay the course. A few actually got more aggressive because they saw it as a buying opportunity. A few got a little less aggressive because they were worried. Again, her job is to respond to your needs. Next. The returns through December 31st, the last fiscal year that's complete, are in front of you over 1, 3, 5, and 10 years. Again, the most aggressive earned 14.96 last year. The most conservative earned 2.2. Which strategy of these 5 is the most common picked by cities? Moderately conservative. Second step from the bottom, 30% in equities, 70% in bonds and cash. So that earned 5.15 versus you're probably around the 0.5 mark. not bad. Last year was a really good year. This first quarter has obviously been very tough. I like to look over 10 years as maybe a better model because the longer you look, the better time frame you get. So those are our returns. Next page. It's important to share with you the cost. Again, in the middle, there are no setup costs. So we don't charge anything until you actually put assets in the trust. Plumas County said, oh my gosh, we need to do this, but it took them 2 years before they put any assets in. So again, no fees until assets are put in. The PARS fee is 0.25% of assets under 10 million. Sometimes that's called 25 basis points if you understand basis points terminology. And then the investment manager, because they're doing more difficult work, we call it the heavy lifting. They get 0.35% of assets under 5 million. So as an example, if you put in $200,000 and you multiply that times 0.6, which would be 0.25 and 0.35, that's $1,200. And then we charge you on a monthly basis. So we would divide that by 12. That's $100 a month for a $200,000 contribution. I want to give you some context on amount of money. By the way, since this is tiered, as you see, if you were to like this program and you also wanted to transfer over the OPEB money from CalPERS CERBIT, that would be 3.5 million going in to this trust as well. And now you're only 1.5 million away from that $5 million threshold. All right. Last slide. Why take this step in our professional opinions? We need something to smooth out this pension rate volatility because it's going up, it's going down, and who knows where the future's going. But let's try and smooth this thing out with this reserve fund in a trust. 2, let's offer a hedge against inflation. I just did a review at 4 o'clock this afternoon for another city client, and the company managing their money, 8.5% is inflation right now. And they said it hasn't been that high since 1981. And I remember that because I tried to buy a house and the interest rates on the mortgage loan were 15%. Holy cow. So this trust also helps provide a hedge against inflation. Number 3, you need a financial toolbox. You've already got one. This is simply another fiscal tool in that financial toolbox to deal with rising pension costs. And then finally, kind of a catchy term, but it's prepared today for tomorrow's pension realities. We don't know exactly where they're going, but we do know the costs are going up, and we want to help you prepare. So that's our program, and I'm just here to educate tonight and to answer any questions.
Thank you. That was easy to understand. I appreciate it.
That was the second goal.
I do have a question. If the city found itself in need of some more cash and we needed to withdraw some money, what's the fee or penalty? Nothing.
No penalty.
Okay.
It's your money,
And no fee?
no fee.
The regular,
Yeah, it would drop the assets down,
Right.
so they're actually, your fees would go down.
okay. All right.
I guess one question I have is I understand that now CalPERS actually penalizes every year for the amount of our unfunded liability. I think it's at the like 6 or 7% level. And so even having this money in a account, we would still be paying that sort of a fee to CalPERS, right?
Right, yeah.
And so I guess that fee is mainly going to be it's going to be determined by the funding ratio that we have. So
Correct.
do you have any sort of recommendation on what kind of funding ratio cities should typically be running at?
Go to the funding page again,
Page 8.
Robin. 8. So the middle column, about halfway down, you see your funded ratio, 75.3. You deserve a pat on the back. The range we see of agencies is 60 to 80. So you're above the midpoint on funded ratio. I would say if you want a goal, you go for the 80%. Nationally, they shoot for 90. Hey, California is a different circumstance than nationally. So I think if you had funding consultants here, they would say go for 80%. Yeah. And when you accumulate a certain amount of assets in our trust, I think it'll be very appropriate at some point in time to take some of those assets and pay CalPERS to take that funded ratio even higher. But you want a safety net for now. We just don't know what's coming. We got wildfire season again. I did the drive from Sacramento to Nevada down today. Beautiful 5.5 hours, but I saw the devastation of the fires. It's crazy. Let's put some money aside to prepare for what may be coming down the road.
So I have a quick question. Your risk tolerance appetite. So I have a very low risk tolerance appetite in general in my life. And so you said that moderately conservative is the one that most cities choose.
Correct.
Can you give me some idea of what kind of places choose the higher risk strategy if it's not the most cities?
We have a lot of special districts as clients, especially those that are rate-based revenue. So they, unlike you, are not subject to sales tax fluctuation, property tax fluctuation, TOT, all those things. Steady stream of income. The only thing that could change it would be a vote of the people. And usually the vote eventually is to increase the rate, which takes the income up. So those are the folks. In fact, I'll give you a specific example, Karen. Mesa Water District. In fact, that's the reason I'm driving back tomorrow. I'll do a review with them in the afternoon. We were given the presentation at the very beginning on the choices, and the general manager interrupted and he said, "I'll take the one at the top, capital appreciation." And the portfolio manager said, "But that's the riskiest one. That's the one that has the most amount of chance to lose." And he said, "We don't need the money for 10 years. The market will go up and it will go down, but over time it will go up. And since we don't need the money for 10 years, I'd like to get the most amount of return possible." And that was his philosophy. And over those 10 years, it was a home run, as you see, 14% return. So, and that was just over 1 year. I didn't even look at when the 10-year returns were. So it was a smart move for him. But that's highly unusual. That's like 5% of our overall client base have chosen that one. Again, most are moderately conservative. And the second most common choice is moderate, which is the 50-50 choice.
Yes, this question isn't really for you, it's for city staff. So our 115 trust for the OPEB, right? Is that who manages and how is that invested at this time? Do we know?
It's CalPERS.
It is with CalPERS.
It's with CalPERS, but as far as exactly how it's invested and all that, and I don't even know, Mitch, you may know, do we even have a choice when we go through CalPERS?
Yeah, in their OPEB program, they have 3 risk tolerance levels. Most aggressive, kind of the middle of the road, and then the least aggressive. Usually is dictated by what's the discount rate in your actuarial valuation, because that becomes the target rate of return in that actuarial valuation. So I'm not sure who your actuary is, Des, but staff will know, or we can look on your ACFR and we'll know that way.
And so the CalPERS trust, like having set up with CalPERS, they have the 0.25% fee for anything below $10 million. And do they actually have a fee for the investment?
CalPERS?
Yeah.
Theirs is not tiered. It's
Not tiered.
one fee.
Okay, so how does that reconcile? I believe it's page 13.
So we're tiered. We wanted to give a reward to the more assets you put in, the lower the fees
Sure.
with our program.
Oh, so the CalPERS is not the PARS.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So they're managing your overall pension money, which is on page 8.
Mhm,
You've got line 2 there.
mhm.
You have 34 million in assets. So let's back up. Actuarial liability, again, technical term, promise of benefits made. Line 2, assets. How much have you set aside to take care of the promise of benefits paid? You put in 34 million. Therefore, your unfunded liability is 11 million. So you've already got 34 million with them on your traditional pension. And now you've got this 3.5 million set aside in a 115 trust for OPEB, AKA retiree medical.
I see.
Been here quite a while. Yeah. Back in Rick Pucci's days. I'm still talking to him about missing that one. So
Mitch, I have a question. So on page 4, what brought up my question, I guess, is how you talked about special districts, sewer districts, water, doing the higher risk. So I see you have sub accounts and pensions assets can be divided by department, bargaining group, or cost center.
Yep.
Within the city, since we have enterprise accounts with water and sewer, would that apply there for us as well?
absolutely. And it's pretty common for that to be the case. So you could say, in effect, the contribution sources. So if money's coming from enterprise, that would be in its own fund, and another one's coming from
And so
General
you can
fund.
actually choose different ways with each. We could invest moderately, and I guess what I'm saying is we take the general fund money that goes maybe in low risk, and the enterprise account money could go to a higher risk account.
Yeah, Chris can work with you on the investment strategies.
Okay.
Yeah, for those. But we can definitely sub-account by the departments or cost centers, however you phrase those. Yeah.
I really appreciate this. As anyone who knows me knows this is not my strongest suit, and this is fabulous. I actually understand what you're saying to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and making the drive over.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your business already.
Mitch?
All right. So let's move on to our third presentation, Eastern Sierra Pride Nonprofit and Event, presented by Dina Davenport Conway, and she'll give the presentation via Zoom.
She's muted.
How's that? There we go. Hello, Mayor and Council members. I'm Dina Davenport Conway. As president of the newly formed local nonprofit Eastern Sierra Pride, I'm here to formally introduce our organization to Bishop City Council. We're an organization of LGBTQIA2SP+ people and allies, formed in October of last year, working together to ensure our area is welcoming, healthy, and safe for all LGBTQIA2SP+ community. We appreciate the work that Bishop City Council has done to make our area a welcoming town for all seasons and all people, as expressed in the excellent City of Bishop values statement proclaimed in 2017. Our group's mission is to cultivate an Eastern Sierra where LGBTQIA2SP people are celebrated, embraced, and supported. We will strive to ensure that our LGBTQIA2SP community is treated with dignity and respect and has equal access to employment, housing, and all services needed to live a safe, healthy, and meaningful life in all of our local settings, including business, cultural, education, faith-based, recreation, and other. We invite the city to be an active partner with us going forward to further our shared goals of compassion, diversity, acceptance, and inclusion. As one of our first public efforts, our rapidly growing group is spearheading a first of its kind Eastern Sierra Pride event for our area to be held at the Tri-County Fairgrounds and other local venues on June 4th and 5th. We hope to build on the good efforts of the Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center in promoting our area widely. Our goal is to create and host a festival that will not only create a greater sense of community, but also help burnish our area's welcoming reputation. Eastern Sierra Pride will be a real-world expression of the goals of the city's value statement, and we are reaching out to diverse local businesses, organizations, and groups to partner with us to make it a great success. Currently, our active partners include not only the Tri-County Fairgrounds, but also the Friends of the Fair Volunteer Group, Bishop Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Center, and numerous sponsoring entities and businesses, and it is funded in part by Inyo County. We are lining up a diverse group of entertainers as well as a dance party, drag show, and other attractions. Please see our website at easternsierra.org for a full description of the inaugural event and our organization. We hope that the City of Bishop will partner with and support us on this important event. There are a variety of reasons that we think that this festival will be beneficial to City of Bishop and Inyo residents as a whole. Number one, the local economy. This event could bring many and possible first-time visitors to the area who use our hotels, campgrounds, restaurants, and outdoor services. We have sponsorship from many local businesses and anticipate that sponsorship will draw people into their establishments through signage and program advertising. Diversity is number two. There's a lot of buzz about the importance of and potential for diversifying outdoor experiences. Having a Pride event that includes outdoor events will signal that an outdoor lifestyle and our area's big backyard is available and beneficial for all to benefit from and enjoy. Welcoming folks to our area from all walks of life will also benefit our community financially and socially. Number three, community building. This event will have a heavy focus on allyship. Our community will benefit from coming together in a way that celebrates both our diversity and uniqueness. It will help to advance goodwill and help folks feel more welcome to live their authentic life in our beautiful county. Number four, cultural enrichment. Eastern Sierra Pride will provide our local community members an opportunity to meet folks with with common interests from nearby surrounding areas, as well as folks from afar. It will also bring new artistic mediums to the area in the form of performance and film. The board and volunteers of Eastern Sierra Pride include a variety of dedicated and talented individuals who are active in our local communities and have experience organizing, implementing diverse events in collaboration with a wide array of allies. As our organization continues to grow and engage in our area, we plan to continue our efforts to help Inyo County, the Eastern Sierra, and our local community members grow and thrive as a welcoming environment. We've included a list of our current sponsors in the letter that we were going to send, and invite the city to join us in achieving these important goals of inclusion and compassion by supporting and attending the June Pride event and by actively standing with our group growing forward. Thank you on behalf of Eastern Sierra Pride, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dina. That's an exciting event. Is there a specific ask that you're looking for, or would you like, is there something that you want us specifically to do for the event, or rather just show up and be there and support as council members?
We really, really hope that you will be there and to support our group, and one of the city council members will actually be emceeing the event, and we're hoping to read the Bishop value statement on the stage on the Sunday event.
Fantastic.
We should all go up there and do it.
That would be fantastic.
Well, Dina, you had me at dance party, so I will definitely be there. And yeah, so I'm excited about this. This is a great event and it's really terrific. I really appreciate that you have the two-spirit in there. It's one of the things that I talk about a lot to the Native American kids when I'm teaching at school. So I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you so much.
Dina, thank you for putting together or being part of this group and bringing it to our community. I think it's necessary that we represent and that we see that we need to represent of all our communities locally. I believe this is a multi-day event.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It happens to all of us. So if this is a multi-day event, could you talk a little bit more about what other events or what activities are going to be taking place during this festival?
All right. So on the first day, that's Saturday, June 4th, it's going to be an 18 and over event because it's after dark, and it seems like a better idea to keep, I'm so sorry about that, to keep control of the situation and not having kids sneaking drinks or whatever. So we'll be checking IDs at the gate, and it's going to be dancing and a drag show. And we have a local DJ, Tavis, who goes by T-Rex, and he's going to be DJing both days, and super excited about it. And then on Sunday, we have a day full of events. The first event is going to be a Tupperware party by this incredible drag queen named Ethelina Can from Palm Springs. And that's going to be happening at C5. And from what I hear, those tickets are really selling out. Then we will have drag bingo starting at 1:00. We have 2 vendors. We have Pinion Pizza and Rolling Chef serving food. And then we have live music, and people from our community will be performing. And we have a young, really fun singer from Los Angeles coming out named Maddox, and they're a genderqueer. Their pronouns are she, her, and they have a pretty big following, and they play prides all over California. So we're very excited to have them.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of different activities. So definitely, we should all be there at one point or another, any day or part of the day, few hours.
That would be great.
Yeah, Dina, in addition to the festivities, I mean, I really want to thank you guys for stepping up and actually setting up this nonprofit, which is not just for this Pride event. It is serving as a support group to many people in the community who feel that they who have been marginalized, who don't have the same. I mean, we all know how services are limited within a rural community, and especially if you need some specialized services, it becomes an even harder to achieve. And so I'm really appreciative that you guys have stepped up to fill in those needs so that we can really tend to our whole community as a whole. And I definitely, yes, I'll be there in emceeing and making sure not to be super nervous, and hopefully we'll rely on the support of my council members, but also making sure that I can introduce some of the city staff who are going to be at the event as well, to make sure that our whole community in town knows that cities, we definitely adhere to our value statement and are inclusive and welcoming of everyone in our community. That's our role.
Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing up the other parts that our organization are addressing. We had our first meetup at the Mountain Rambler. We're having meetups every other week. And there were somewhere between 50 and 70 people there. And people were just so excited to meet other people. I mean, there were people that came from Bridgeport just to come hang out at the Rambler with us for a few hours, and all over Mono and Inyo counties. We have definitely made some connections for healthcare that is very specific to our community that wasn't necessarily being provided here. And we're making those connections as well. We have some possible telehealth coming from UCLA. which is wonderful. And I just feel like it is a really good next step for our community. And it just would be very wonderful for us all to be together and to come together for something happy and not to fight an injustice, but rather to come together to celebrate our community. That seems like a really good step toward inclusivity in general. So thank you for having me here today as well.
One more quick question, Dina. If there are people out there who are looking to help at the event or help with the nonprofit or need some help connecting to the places that you just mentioned, how are they supposed to get a hold of you guys?
Well, if you go to the website, which is easternsierrapride.org, there are so many different ways that you can either volunteer or you can make connections. You can find LGBTQIA2SP plus friendly business. You can volunteer for the event. You can sponsor the event, or you can just get on our mailing list so that we can make sure you're aware of everything that's going on.
And I guess my other question would be, have you reached out to any of the schools to work with their LGBTQ clubs? I know Bishop has one, as well as Home Street Middle School.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yes, we've actually done a little bit of outreach about that. We were coming up with a poster for that. That is not in my purview. There are a couple other board members that are handling that, and one that works in Health and Human Services. That would be a good connection.
Terrific. Thanks so much.
And please reach out if you feel like there's anything that we're missing or anything that we need to be doing. We really are counting on our community to let us know if there's any spaces that need to be filled. We'll be here to fill them for you.
Dina, thank you so much for your effort in presenting this to us tonight and taking the time out of your evening. Really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you so much for having me.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Busy times at the fairgrounds. There'll be Mule Days, Pride, High School Rodeo, 3 weekends in a row that we'll all be volunteering at.
Okay, let's move on to the Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau updates presented by Executive Director Tani Thompson. And this will be by Zoom as well.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. My speaker was acting a little strange earlier, so I'm glad it's working now. Gosh, this is hard to follow those great presentations that you've already received tonight. So I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. This is the first time I've been here since your council officially appointed Destin as the city administrator, and our board wanted to extend a hearty congratulations to all of you and to Destin. We're really looking forward to working with him. Chamber Commerce side of things, we are getting ready to conduct our annual elections. So I just wanted to put it out there. If any chamber member business is interested in having a seat on the board, now is the time to let us know so that we could get your name on the ballot. We're excited to be planning for some in-person events coming up. Inyo Associates will be May 16th. Hopefully our first in-person networking luncheon will be in June. And we are looking forward to getting back to hopefully in-person board meetings in the near future. We're looking for a location that we can do that at. Switching gears to the Visitors Bureau side of things, it's a very busy week for us. It's Fishmas, the time of year that all the anglers, local and from far away, look forward to. And tomorrow we'll be hosting a webinar with Fish and Wildlife representatives, some local fishing industry experts to help inform the public and media about fishing regulations, fishing conditions, and all of the important things they need to know before they go when coming up here. And then Friday night, we're back in person and so happy to be hosting the Fishmas Eve media reception at the Bishop Country Club. We did extend an invitation to council members. We still have room. If you're not sure and you still want to let us know, we can make room for you. But we need to know in the next day or two. The Visitor Information Center, the Visitors Center here, March was very busy. Over 1,200 guests were served. And that's an average of 47 people per day, with usually just one guest host at the counter. We're getting ready to open to 7 days a week in May, and also extend our hours so that we can better serve people as it starts to get busier. Visitor guide requests are still strong, almost 200 in March. About half and half are taking the digital download versus the printed ones being mailed to them. And I was really happy to hear Dina talking about the Pride event, and Councilmember Mahovey talking about Mule Days and the high school rodeo. Coming out of the pandemic, more events are coming back online, and new events are coming, and that is making us really busy on our end of things, updating our calendar of events on the website. We have added 55 events. I just went and looked, probably more since the time I wrote this. And we actually took Jenny's suggestion to have a rolling calendar of a rolling list of events, as well as a month by month calendar view. So I wanted to thank you guys for that suggestion, and we're getting good feedback on that. And also remind folks, if you have an event that you'd like us to help promote, please just send us an email and we'll do our best to promote it on the website and through our social media channels. We've got a couple of media visits in addition to the press reception. We recently hosted a travel writer from the Bay Area, Matt Johansson, who was here for a few days in March. He is frequently published in many of the Bay Area newspapers and online publications. And we're helping with a filming project with Dan Hernandez, middle of May. And it's part of an education campaign with LADWP and safe practices around water, as well as like boat inspections and things that people need to know. And lastly, we're working with the High Sierra Visitors Council for another media fam trip that will be here right after Dan is here. So we're quite busy. March was a great month, lodging wise, statistics wise. The occupancy was a little over 68%, and that's 11% above last year and 4% above our March of 2019. April is a little bit slower than I wouldn't say than we anticipated, but about 3% less occupancy than last year. But honestly, I always take March and April and look at them together because there's so much variation in the schools and spring breaks. So you really can't just look at March and April separately, but really put them together. And I think that we're on track for a really good March and April this year. And average daily rate for March of this year was $117, according to Smith Travel Research. And that's a slight increase over pre-pandemic levels, but to be expected. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has, and hopefully see you on Zoom tomorrow and maybe Friday night at the press reception.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Does anyone?
Nope.
Thank you so much, Tani. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for the opportunity to give the update.
Moving on to our next update from the Eastern Sierra Tri-County Fairgrounds, prepared by Chief Executive Officer Jen McGuire.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'll keep mine really brief. First on the agenda, I was going to reveal the fair poster winner tonight, but we have a three-way tie, which is a good thing. So I cannot reveal the youth poster contest winner as of yet. We had 10 entries. They all are fabulous. Once we select the winning poster, we will present that to the council and to the community. Our theme this year was Celebrate Red, White, and Blue in 2022. And the posters are very unique. And there's something very endearing about seeing the fair through a child's eyes and what's important to them. And they put it in a drawing. It's really neat. So I'm excited about that, to reveal that. Our 2022 fair updates, last time I believe I went down a complete entertainment lineup, but we just finalized a couple really high profile tribute bands. We got a Bruno Mars tribute band coming on Thursday, and we have a Foreigner tribute band coming on Saturday. They're both very high profile. They play a lot down in Los Angeles quite a bit. So it'll be really a great band to see. Grounds acts, again, I went down that list last time, but one of the new ones we just added was a chainsaw carving act, and that'll be really exciting to see. We're also working hard to add a small livestock department this year. So we have some livestock here, small livestock being goats, chickens, rabbits, that kind of thing. So stay tuned for that. That'll be all new this year and something new for the public to participate in. Grandstand Arena acts. We're looking at 4 nights of entertainment. Thursday night's going to be a Hispanic concert. Friday night's going to be our traditional country concert. I can't announce the acts just yet. We do have confirmation on our acts. I have to wait till their people give me the green light to make the announcement, but we will bring the VIP area back on Friday night. We're going to transform it into our own version of Billy Bob's Texas. It's going to be a honky tonk Bishop style, complete with some neon signs and a mechanical bull. We're going to have some elevated viewing areas on back of wagons. It's going to be really neat. So I'm looking forward to that. Saturday will be the parade and the rodeo, and then Sunday, of course, the crowd favorite will be the Derby. As far as marketing, we're still hitting the Ridgecrest, Antelope Valley, Roseman, Tonopah area pretty heavy. We see a lot of response from that. I'm looking and doing some direct mail pieces. We're going to actually send out some coupons out to the Edwards Air Force Base area and different areas, and have some coupon codes that they have to plug into the system to buy tickets, and then I can see what the redemption really is on some of the direct mail pieces. But I'm excited about introducing direct mail. I think I can actually reach a lot of people that we normally don't reach. We're still heavily, we just invested heavily back into digital again, since we're kind of back up and running on our summer events. If you notice, we do have a billboard on the outside of town, just near the Chevron station. And of course, social media, we're always strong. We stay relevant, we stay current. We're actually dabbling a little bit in TikTok and YouTube just to kind of reach a younger demographic. As far as an event update, it's pretty, you pretty much know about the monster trucks and the barbecue chili contest. We do have 10 world champion chili cooks that'll be here cooking chili on May 7th. So I'm excited about that. Of course, we're gearing up for Mule Days. We're very excited and very proud to host the first annual Eastern Sierra Pride event in June. We've got high school state finals, of course, right after that. Another event that's not on the calendar yet, but I just booked it, is June 30th. We got the National Guard Band coming. It's a Thursday night. It's a free concert. It's a 40-piece band. And we'll get some flyers and posters out for that. But that's going to be a really unique event. And I invite the entire public to come out and support that. But again, it's a 40-piece band, National Guard Band. It's going to be pretty spectacular. Junior Livestock Show and Sale. We're going to have a live sale. It's not going to be online. It's going to be live. Everyone's really excited about that. We're adding some special unique awards, and we're trying to add a little bit of bling to the ring this year. So the sale and show will be very unique for the kids this year. So you'll start to get letters and see the 4-H kids out knocking on your door here really soon. So we really appreciate if you can support them as much as you possibly can. I've got a promoter that wants to introduce flat track motorcycle racing here. He's doing it down in Ridgecrest. It's a really fun event. So we're entertaining some dates, and I'm going to try to get that up here as well. Our summer concert series, we're getting ready to release the dates and the bands, mostly tribute bands. We've got Tom Petty lined up. We've got Leonard Skinner, the Cars, Eagles, Bad Company, Duran Duran, a little something for everyone. We're also going to throw in some hot August nights with Neil Diamond and Elvis in August. We're working on a Latin music festival. It's an all-day festival, a Latin and salsa music festival, sometime in August or October. We're going to finalize the dates on that, but that'll be something very unique to the area as well. As far as new equipment, we just purchased a new scissor lift. We're so excited. Every time we get something new, we get really excited here. We also purchased a concessions trailer, which is much, much needed. So since I've been here, the Friends of the Fair have purchased, we've got a scissor lift, we've got a new tractor, we've got 2 arena drags, a new forklift, a ton of kitchen equipment, and of course, the scissor lift and the concession trailer. So Friends of the Fair has done a lot for us, and we're really appreciative of them. Some of the future purchases that I'm trying to get on the table is some new tables. If you've ever had to lift those old wooden banquet tables, you know what I'm talking about. But get some new tables would be nice. As far as infrastructure goes here, there's always something broke, and we're always fixing it. But we're still working with DGS and the California Construction Authority on the new heating and air system for the Charlie Brown. So my goal is by hockey season this year, we're not going to have those archaic propane leaky heaters anymore. We're actually going to have a current system in place. I applied for a grant, we were accepted, and it's just it's the state, so it takes a while. And other than that, that kind of just wraps up my report, unless you have any questions.
As always, I'm so impressed with everything you have going on. It's really exciting. Thank you for making the fairground so successful.
Thank you.
Jen, can I just make one little comment or suggestion? When
Absolutely.
you guys are promoting the fair and the derby down in Rosamond and Ridgecrest and that whole area, will you make sure to put on there that they should buy their tickets early?
Absolutely.
Because having worked at the ticket booth, it really pains me when they show up and they're like, "What do you mean it's sold out? I drove up from Palmdale." I'm like, sold out. So please make that.
Yes, we
part of
do
your-
have campaigns in place for that. Absolutely.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight, and look forward to a summer of fun at the fair.
Thank you.
All right. So we had written reports from all our department heads. Does anyone have any questions on any of them? No. Okay. All right, then let's move on to the, oh, I'm sorry, Destin.
Madam Mayor, may I add one thing?
Yes.
So just a brief update. The Caltrans Dig Out project on Main Street that they had proposed to do last year at nighttime, they are actually going to start on May 9th and complete it by the 20th. And all the work will be done in daylight hours. They can work together. They're bringing all the asphalt right now from probably, it's looking like Gardnerville. So just to be aware, they'll have, it's going to be a quick project, but it will be disruptive to downtown Main Street for about 10, 11 days right there. Just wanted to let you all know that'll start the day of our next council meeting.
Won't be for Mule Days, will it?
They'll be done. They actually go into a penalty phase if they do not make meal prior. So what they did allow is on starting the 20th, which will give them a couple more days, they could work 24/7 if they have to.
Oh, good.
So the plan is to be out of here.
Destin, do you mind mentioning what the streets the project is going to cover from?
So essentially, it's going to cover the entire length of Main Street from Y Road about all the way through J Street.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'll just be patching the wheel paths, as you can imagine, where the wheels go. They'll be grinding it up and patching it right behind it. So it'll be just kind of a moving project through town. But the asphalt is not going to make it till their next major rehab of Main Street. So they're going to do these temporary fixes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar. Notice to the public, all matters under the consent calendar are considered routine by the city and will be acted on by one motion. Does anyone have any questions? Any public comments?
I do not see any raised hands.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, call for a vote?
Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Mahui,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis,
Yes.
and Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, this is, we're going on to new business. And this is a routine item. Moving on to the second reading and adoption of a proposed ordinance authorizing an amendment to the contract between the City Council of the City of Bishop and the Board of Administration of California Public Employees Retirement System. Destin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. So just a brief background to bring everybody up to speed. CalPERS, as you heard earlier in Mitch's presentation, is who we currently have our retirement benefits through. The city contracts as miscellaneous or safety. Safety is police and fire, and miscellaneous is everything else left. Back last year when we hired the fire code enforcement officer, they were mistakenly put into the miscellaneous category in the retirement and should have been safety. We worked with CalPERS to make the necessary adjustments so that we could bring this person into the proper group, therefore requiring an amendment to the agreement with PERS, which is before you tonight for a second reading. At this point, I would recommend that council consider approving the second reading and adoption of the proposed ordinance by title only.
Do we have any public comment?
I do not see any raised hands.
Okay, I will open the public hearing.
Oh, no public hearing.
Oh, geez, God, I get them wrong every time.
Not every-
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the proposed ordinance by title only.
I'll second that.
Okay, call for a vote.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, authorizing an amendment to the contract between the City Council of the City of Bishop and the Board of Administration of the California Public Employees Retirement System. Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis,
Yes.
and Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, council.
All right, item B, Park Facilities Lead Worker. Council consideration to approve the Park Facilities Lead Worker job description, waive the hiring freeze to allow the city to hire a Park Facilities Lead Worker, and approve the proposed changes to the monthly salary schedule, July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Services. Dan McElroy.
Madam Clerk, the speaker's mic is muted.
I know.
Can you hear me okay? There you go. So I'll begin with the background and history. The Parks and Recreation and Facilities Worker has been an open position for 10 years. This position has been filled. This position had been filled by a staff member who has moved to a recreation supervisor. In 2019, the Community Services Manager was filled the Parks and Recreation Supervisor, who manages the park and the facilities to its fullest extent. Due to the additional responsibilities of the Community Services Manager, it was deemed necessary to hire a full-time member to take the lead responsibilities at the park and update the title of job description to Park Facilities Lead Worker, as well as a full-time salary schedule. The current staff in the analysis, our current staff finds itself in constraints due to the added workload with new landscaping, trees, and the heavy load of care of the maintenance of the facilities of the city park. As you guys know, it's very, very busy there on a daily basis. Trying to find the balance between park maintenance and administrative duties has been difficult. And those duties have been pushed to other staff who also have heavy workloads. Having an additional full-time member would take the responsibilities of a lead worker to allow a staff to reevaluate workloads
and get them to a more manageable state. And the economic impacts of hiring a full-time employee at the city parks lead worker to assist in the management and maintenance of the city parks is significant. The city park is the jewel of the city and is highly used by the community and visitors alike. Having a staffing available to maintain the quality of its lawns, trees, foliage, baseball fields, facilities, and infrastructure is key to the attraction to our community members and visitors. The budget impacts, this position was accounted for in the 2022-2023 fiscal budget. However, this position was not accounted for in the 21-22 fiscal budget. An amendment to 001-031-51001, the park's full-time facilities fund will be estimated to be a cost of about $7,023 and will be presented in the third quarter budget for approval of this position. Our legal attorney, Pucci, finds that this item recommends that it complies with the law. And our recommendation tonight would be the city council to consider to approve the park facilities lead worker description and job description essential functions analysis. Number 2 would be to waive the hiring freeze to allow the city to begin hiring for the facilities lead worker. And last, approve the proposed changes made in the monthly salary schedule, July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022. Any questions or comments?
I haven't talked to you specifically about this, but I've talked to Destin and it seems like it's a much needed position. So I'm really happy that you're getting the support and help you need. And I do have one question. How long do you think it'll train someone to like learn how to, do all the pool?
Perpetual.
Right? You think so? I mean, probably, right? It'll be like,
It's something that, I've done for 12 years of my career with the city of Bishop. And I'm still learning every single day. So it's not something where it's just you could train somebody and say, go get them, Tiger.
can't automate this position.
I wish. It's going to be a lot of hands-on, a lot of training to get that person up to speed. So
I would like to propose one small change. Since this staff report was, I guess, put together and submitted, the Community Services Department and myself have met and discussed an organizational chart, and we'll be making some changes within that chart. So I would suggest that we change in receives general supervision from the community services manager and a community services supervisor. And you'll see that we had a lot of discussion, and we're kind of going to go back to what used to work very well at the park for numbers of years, and that's going back to 2 full-time staff at the park. And Dan will be coming over here in filling his job as the manager. So exciting news. I think it was a very, very productive meeting, but I wanted to make that change, Dan, to there.
Yes.
To add that.
So that'd be in that analysis portion. Sorry, in the
It's in the job description.
job description.
Yeah, second section there. We'll make that change.
Jim has a question.
Yes, Jim.
Not so much a question. It's more of a thank you, Dan. Thank you, Destin, for making this happen. I know that in the past several years, the park responsibilities have grown. The fields, I mean, what we do at the park and what you guys do over there now keeps growing by leaps and bounds. The amount of services we offer. So yeah, it was time. This is much needed. And I think we got to keep the ball rolling. We have a beautiful park. We have beautiful programs. And I think bringing someone new in and getting them on board, and let's let it race some more. So thank you, Destin. Thank you, Dan, for making this happen and seeing a problem and filling the hole. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing that I'd add to that is to what Jim was saying is just for the members of the public out there to realize, like, you look at the community services department and a third of these positions are not filled. And we, in the past 5 years, have been demanding more and more of community services, and they've been doing it and increasing after-school programs, increasing camps, and increasing, like Jim was talking about, like more programs at the park with the ball fields and everything. And our staff has remained the same. And so it's placed a really enormous burden on them. It's made muddied kind of people knowing exactly what their job responsibilities are. And I think to clear that up, it does make sense to hire for this position, especially as the department's growing. One question I have is if we are to approve this, when would the job float? So, and when would applications be, when would the application period be open for interested members of the public?
You can go ahead, Dustin.
So with this approval tonight, we'll be ready to go out to advertisement for this job immediately through personnel, HR, Jana will go fly the job. With typically probably a position like this, we would look at 30 days. You know, and it's ambitious to think we may have someone hired by the 1st of June. I think, you know, we probably won't have the budget adjustment, and we'll be lucky with physicals and the whole process that we could have somebody on by July 1, but we're still ahead of waiting for that date of July. And I will add that the department is running with 3 full-time people at this point. Five was the normal. So adding one, I want to commend Dan and his entire staff for the job they do with that park. It's amazing. And all the after-school programs, and as you said, on and on and on.
Okay, I'll go. I'd like to make a motion to approve the park facilities lead worker job description and its job description essential function analysis with the changes that Dustin suggested. Waive the hiring freeze to allow the city to begin to hire a park facilities lead worker, and approve the proposed changes made to the monthly salary schedule July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022.
I'll second that.
And before we get to a vote, council and
I
Madam
was going to do
Mayor,
it.
public
She's
comment.
got it, Dean.
I was on it.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I didn't hear anything.
I couldn't get my word out before you snuck in there. Any public comment?
I do not see any raised hands.
Call for a vote.
Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Mohovi.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis,
Yes.
and Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much and have a good
Yeah.
evening.
I look forward to meeting the new worker. All right, Police Department audiovisual upgrade. Council consideration to approve the Police Department audiovisual upgrades as quoted by Western Audiovisual for an amount not to exceed $20,000.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I know I had promised to bring Carla Jimenez here tonight, but as with most rookies, she's quite busy. So I'll make sure we get her here shortly when she's off. She's on the last phase, should be getting released here shortly, but City of Bishop has been extremely busy during her shift the last couple of weeks, and I think she was down like 10 reports as of yesterday. So, but she's learning, she's doing great, and that's great news for us. If I can add real quick before I get started on the staff report, I won't take up too much time, but the autism patch project was a success. We sold out of patches as of last week. We have identified a local group, and we'll be announcing it at the next council meeting and making a presentation of the dollar amount. So it's actually a little more than we thought we would earn and be able to cover the costs and still make a substantial donation. And the organization, we've reached out and they said they'd be more than happy to accept it. So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about the audiovisual project we want to do at the PD. As you know, council, you've approved both the carpet and the new painting for the PD. The carpet will be going in within the next 2 weeks. Painting's been done, looks great in the building. So we want to utilize some of our grant monies that we have left over and kind of automate, as most of you will remember that old whiteboard that was along the wall there in the briefing room. We've taken that down. It's not going to go back up. So what we want to do, because we have the monies available, is we want to put a 65-inch color TV there. Not to watch TV, obviously. It'll be used for training, PowerPoint videos. It'll give us an opportunity to put up calls for service. So we will be able to see those things at all time when we're within the PD, because if we get a call for service or something and I see my folks run out, I have to go all the way back to my computer or go into dispatch to be able to see what's going on. Now, if I'm out in the briefing room doing something, it'll give me the opportunity to do that there. It'll also give that opportunity to the sergeants as well, the lieutenant, whoever's out there, without us having to be tied to a computer or a cell phone. So where it's really going to be vital, for instance, I need to do Title 15 PowerPoint training. I'll be able to do the whole department at one time instead of us trying to huddle around computers and things like that now. So we're just kind of trying to move into the next phase of our ability to get things done and be a lot more efficient as a department. So as we're taking over the annex here, we're going to put one in here also, because it will still allow us to do the same thing, have trainings, be able to watch videos, be able to even look at our body cam and go back and do debriefs on things as a team, and be able to make ourselves more efficient. But also it will be offered to other city departments to use as well if they want to come in and do some training to or utilize the video conferencing. So to talk about our lobby, as most of you know, you've been in the lobby over your course of your time here. You see flyers get dropped on the floor, they get left all over the place, they get thrown outside the PD. So we're going to eliminate the flyers. We're going to put a 32-inch color TV in there. We'll put it on a loop that we can update any given time, take items on, put items off. It'll have our hours of operation, fees, our mission vision statement, put pictures of the officers up there so the citizens can see them when they come in. So basically, if somebody's waiting in the lobby for service, they'll have something to be able to look at that may give them additional information. And the goal of that is to be able to get automated information out on a lot quicker ability than having, excuse me, having to wait for dispatch or for a records clerk or somebody to come up there. They may be able to just see the information they want, parking permits. I mean, the ability to put information on this, excuse me, is limitless. So I'm asking that council give me the authority to go ahead and make these purchases not to exceed $20,000. It will be the same company that came in and put the audiovisual system here, which is a lot more consistent, because then when they come to work on one, they may need to work on both, and we have the same folks that know what they've installed. So I'm just asking the council to approve that project, or if you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them.
I love it. Like, it seems great when you walk into the lobby and you have some good visuals, to give you some information. I think the public will be served well.
If I could tell you one more thing, we hadn't really paid a lot to it, to be honest with you. We have the medicine box that's in there where people can dispose of medicine. It was totally full as of last week. So
Wow.
we are getting that swapped out. So it is doing what it was intended to do. But you know, it's one of those items that can easily be forgotten about until you go out there. We were checking on it and it was totally full. So I appreciate all of our citizens of Bishop taking the opportunity to come and use that.
You think a 32-inch monitor is large enough?
I do for the lobby.
Okay.
Just because it doesn't take up too much room and become an eyesore. It actually becomes something that people will look at, and we can put it in a very conspicuous spot that'll be easily viewed.
Any other comments or questions?
I mean, the funding has been identified from grant source, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for adding this improvement to the looks of the police department.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions from the public? Jim. Sorry.
Some kind of the public. Hey, Chief, quick question. You talked
sir.
about the calls for service will be available on the 65-inch monitors in the annex and in the station. Is that just same as in dispatch, the REMS screen that
Yes.
they can see who's on duty, where things are going?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Nope.
I do not see any raised hands.
Okay. No public comments.
I'll make a motion to approve the project as presented and allow the police department to install a new audiovisual system not to exceed $20,000.
I'll second that.
All for a vote?
Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Mohovi,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis,
Yes.
and Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, future agenda items. I'll start with you, Jim, since I don't want to forget you.
I currently have nothing at this moment, and please don't forget me.
And then we can just start with Jose and move our way down.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of attending the Desert Mountain Division Cal Cities meeting last Friday. It is an awesome opportunity to meet and work with other cities, council members and mayors. You learn a lot. So thank you, Jim, for letting me attend this time for you. I'd like to share a few things about the agenda, which this is not the agenda from that meeting. Let me find it.
Madam Mayor, are we doing future agenda items or?
That's right.
Okay.
Oh, then I have nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, that was easy.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
I am interested in at least starting the conversation behind the scenes and then bringing it to us and to the community at large to talk about what that lovely young lady came and talked to us about 2 weeks ago about fireworks and what that might look like for us this year.
I'd like to add an agenda item in the future to discuss options for a 115 trust for our retirement program, to save the city money.
Okay. Then let's move on to, I don't have anything this time. Let's move on to council and committee reports. Jim.
Thought you forgot me. Jose, I would like to thank you for attending the Desert Mountain Division meeting last week. I know in the upcoming future, I'll be having a discussion. I've been asked to be president of our division coming up this August. So we're going to have some coming into a brand new post-COVID world. Hopefully we can get some more enthusiasm and participation. Jose, you got to meet quite a few different people and from our different cities we represent. And I hope to help that grow in the next year. And when you take over as president in the future, it'll all be yours. So Jose, thank you. Other than that, I am good.
You ready, Jose?
I am, thank you. And the next Desert Mountain Division meeting is going to be June 17 in Mammoth Lakes. So it'll be an easy drive for anyone who would like to attend that. So yes, this meeting, a lot of interesting information, especially about the bills being discussed and approved at the Capitol in Sacramento. An interesting comment, not related to legislation, but some of the cities are using a mobile app, especially for reporting code violations. So I would like us to look into that. We do not have a code enforcement person. We depend on the community reporting violations or nuisances, and then we take action. But if we are just waiting on that, it'll be a lot easier to give residents an app in their mobile device, which everybody, and I mean even children, have one. So that may bring us into hearing what it's in people's minds and address those concerns and allowing people easy access to report those violations. An interesting conversation was about the Joshua trees and specifically the Western Joshua trees. And this is a species of trees that grows particularly in the Mojave Desert. Well, there are groups of some environmental groups who are going to be asking the Fish and Wildlife Commission to declare it an endangered species. And should that happen, it's going to limit the municipalities, cities, and counties in the area in their efforts of growing and developing. Right now, the city of Hesperia has a multi-million project to go from 2-lane to 4-lane Rancho Road, and they have everything ready. They have the financing, everything ready, but they were stopped because of this potential change. And right now, some cities have implemented ways of protecting the species, which is instead of cutting down these trees, they move them to a different spot when they need to. So for housing projects, for roads, for any type of development, they are protecting these Joshua trees, but they want to declare them an endangered species, and that will affect a lot of cities tremendously. So there is a lot of conversation about that in the San Bernardino area. There was a conversation about an interesting project, the ECOP project, which is the Citizens on Patrol, which are volunteers that are patrolling streets and reporting things to their police departments. A very interesting program that they have. A bill being discussed right now, AB 2481, is going to waive the fees for household hazardous waste items. Something that what they're trying to do is eliminate those fees, because that prevents people from properly disposing a lot of hazardous waste. So they are trying to do that, especially down there. AB 2728, it's a proposed law that is going to increase the fees for illegal marijuana growing operations, that they have a huge problem down there in those counties. In any given day, they found up to 21 illegal dispensaries and a great number of illegal growth, marijuana growths. So they have that. And what they're trying to do is when they find these illegal marijuana growths, they're going to fine the people operating these fields up to $1,000 per plant. And when they find tens of thousands of plants times $1,000 each, those fines are going to be huge. So that they're using this as a way of deterring people from having these illegal growths. And it was mentioned, I didn't get a lot of details, but there are hundreds of bills that right now being discussed about housing and how that may affect some small cities like us. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see what else comes out of that, out of the capital in Sacramento. And Saturday, I was at the park at the Earth Day Community Arts Festival. It was very well organized, a lot of booths out there, great work done by Angel Council for the Arts and the Bishop Sunrise Rotary Club. A lot of people there, so it was nice. That's all my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Thanks for going to that meeting.
It was nice. It was my pleasure. Yes.
Karen.
So the Owens Valley Groundwater Authority has changed its boundaries. Both Mono County and Tri-Valley have asked over the last year to be removed. And so we officially did a resolution to change our boundaries to allow Mono County and Tri-Valley to set up their own authorities and write their own plan and manage their own water. And so eventually it may mean that we have to change the plan a little bit on our end, but it shouldn't be difficult to do. And in reality, the Tri-Valley area especially was one of the areas that would have needed the most management. So having them pull out and changing the boundaries is actually less work for us in the long run. Hopefully it will work out good for Fish Slough and the other areas. And then the only other thing I have is that, interestingly enough, that Chief Sandridge mentioned it, but Saturday, besides being Fishmas, is also National Prescription Drug Take Back Day. And so anyone between 10 and 2 in the day can go and drop off their prescription drugs at a variety of places around town, the PD being one. And it's just, if you haven't thought about it, take a moment that morning and rifle through your medicine cabinets and see what you can get rid of and dispose of properly. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Steven.
So you mean to tell me Tri-Valley and Mono enjoyed the experience so much they want to go at it again?
No comment.
So I attended 2 meetings in the last couple of weeks. I went to the LAFCO meeting this morning, and basically it's the same kind of thing where we have not yet been asked to do a field of interest study, and the state can require us to do it at any point in time, and it'll cost over $200,000 between the city and the county. So we decided to set a budget to start growing our reserves so that when that happens, we at least have more in the bank. So Jenny, the city's contribution to the LAFCO this coming fiscal year should be about $15,000. And we will have another meeting in May to finalize that budget. And keeping on the same topic of budgets, at the Bishop Area Wastewater Authority, we were discussing our preliminary budget. And in particular, it was a very lively discussion with respect to the future of the irrigation project that we had been planning for nutrient capture to protect the groundwater by our sewer treatment plants. And the plan was always to use this as kind of a stopgap measure, a short-term, inexpensive stopgap measure to buy us time before the Eastern Sierra Community Services District and the City of Bishop join forces in building a modern wastewater treatment plant, because our wastewater treatment plant is about 70, 80 years old at this point. Of course, now we're having to revisit that because the cost of the irrigation project could be up to about $3 million. By comparison, that's still cheaper than a plant, which would be about 30 million. So we started some discussions on de-scoping the irrigation project itself to maybe go the route of flood irrigation, which would be a lot cheaper to implement in the meantime. And at the same time started focusing on getting all the necessary paperwork and investigations, all of the plan and analysis on what it would actually take to do a new sewer plant to address those both of those service districts. And so that's kind of the direction we're going. We're still looking at irrigation, at flood irrigation as a stopgap measure, but then also starting to go down the route of finalizing the environmental documents and the specifications of what a combined plant would need to be. So
I don't have anything to add. That was very thorough. I was at the VAWA as well. And that was the only meeting I had attended during the last 2 weeks. So I have nothing else. Thank you very much. And we can adjourn this meeting to Monday, May 9th, 2022, here in the council chambers at 6 p.m. All right.
Okay.